Hi everyone, this is Britni Wilson-Carlton. I am the co-founder and president of the Compassionate Village. We are a 501c3 nonprofit animal rescue here in Toledo, Ohio. I'm making this video because we have some important things that we need to discuss. And to be quite honest, we are done with the toxic, defamatory behavior that we have become a target of for the last 2.5 years. In 2019 of September, one of our former TCV representatives received an anonymous letter defaming me personally and our organization as a whole. My immediate reaction and my immediate desire was to publicize this letter on our page because there were only 2 facts that were stated in this letter. The rest were lies. The rest of the information was a false narrative that was created by someone with a really hateful agenda. Someone that clearly doesn't know me and didn't know me then. My story, my life, the hardships and challenges that I have faced and overcome. I wanted to put this letter out there so that I could publicly correct the information that was being spread about me personally and our organization. Unfortunately, I was met with great opposition by some of the former representatives of our organization, and I was told not to. Thankfully, those days are far behind us, and I now have the support of our board and our team to finally bring this matter to light. And I'm grateful that we've waited, and although we have suffered and incurred extensive damages to our organization in the last 2.5 years because of this defamation, I feel that we have a stronger message to send at this point. A message of resiliency and of perseverance to not give up. Before I go into the letters, I really feel it's important that I introduce myself to all of you and I share some of my story. As many of you may know, I'm not from the Toledo area. In 2014, my husband and I were perusing Realtor.com and talking about how much we would love to buy a historic home. And we're from the Metro Detroit area, and we thought, you know what, maybe it would be fun. Let's venture down, to Toledo. It's not far from Detroit. It's not a long commute for work. My husband works for a human services agency in Metro Detroit, juvenile justice and school-based diversion programs. That's actually how we met back in 2008. I have this very similar background as he does professionally. And we thought, well, let's check out Toledo. We never venture down that way. Detroit's our stomping grounds. So we found some historic homes in the Old West End, and we were just blown away. It was truly our dream to purchase in a historic estate. So in May of 2014, we took this huge leap of faith, and we bought this historic home in the O. I literally closed my photography studio, which was located near downtown Wyandotte. It's the city that I was born and raised in. And I was a self-employed photographer full-time since 2011. Prior to that, I was working at a human services agency in school-based diversion, mentoring at-risk youth, helping first-time offending youth, and working with families. And I took a huge leap knowing that we knew nobody here. And we were kind of excited about it. I thought, I can expand my photography business down in Toledo. I can still travel to Detroit and Metro Detroit to shoot for my clients that I've been shooting for years. So we buy this house. 2 weeks after buying the house, I had just finalized one of my largest photography contracts. I was shooting for a firm in downtown Detroit, a law firm. A friend of mine is an immigration attorney at this firm, and I had just booked over 40 hours of photo shoot time, thousands of dollars worth in shoot time. And I was so excited about this opportunity and the fact that I could still serve and work with clients in the Detroit area where a lot of my friends, my former colleagues, my former peers from Wayne State University live. I booked this shoot. We schedule all the dates, 40 plus hours of shoot time. We schedule the dates. I come home. The next day we're unpacking, as you can imagine. I moved my whole studio. I moved my mom down to Toledo, and my husband and I, we had a senior dog at the time. We had all this unpacking to do. We'd only been in Toledo a couple of weeks. I go into our kitchen and I bend over and I can't get straight. the most excruciating pain I have ever felt in my life in my low back, to the point where I was blacking out and catching myself on the countertop. Thank God my mom, who was renting our third-story apartment in our home, was home at the time. I was able to take one baby step and hold onto the counter and grab my phone and call her for help. My uncle is a chiropractor up in Michigan. She called him immediately because I told her the pain in my low back is radiating down my legs and I can't even take a step. I couldn't even move my torso out of alignment. I didn't know what was going on. I was a physically fit and healthy person, been shooting and doing photography, which is really strenuous manual labor. It's intensive. And I was shooting weddings and carrying heavy professional camera equipment. And I thought maybe this has something to do with it. I've been doing this for a long time. Plus, we just moved, lifting boxes, carrying, transporting my garden from Michigan that I was not going to leave behind. So I get rushed to the ER via ambulance because I literally can't sit down. I can't walk. I am holding onto a wall while my mom has an ice pack on my back and I'm sobbing. I go to the ER. I end up getting scheduled for an MRI, and I have fully herniated discs in my low back. The worst pain I've ever felt in my life. It took me months to recover from this, and thank God I had a personal contact at the law firm that I had just booked over 40 hours of photo shoot time with. They gave me grace. They understood I was going to have to postpone the shoot and shoot at a later date. So I did. Had the help of a friend and former peer that carried some of my camera equipment when I tried to resume shooting. I had an entire summer worth of photo shoots that were booked. Senior shoots, family shoots, baby shoots, all up in Michigan, because I wasn't going to let go of my Michigan clients. This was my livelihood. This was my business. And I pushed through that summer. I was going to the chiropractor anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week consistently. And over the course of 6 months, I was finally starting to heal. I was only 29 years old. So this was a really young age to have a really severe back injury. But thankfully, I was recovering. At that 6-month mark of living in Toledo, my husband called me and he said, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "I'm losing my job." My husband had worked at this nonprofit human services agency in juvenile justice, school-based diversion. He has a criminal justice degree for over 16 years at this point. It's a grant-funded program that he supervised with juvenile justice youth, and they had lost the grant, meaning he lost his position. They had no funding to support his salary. The agency was devastated. This is a very well-established nonprofit in Metro Detroit. It's been around since the 50s. And he was unemployed for the first time in his life. We took a deep breath. We had just bought this huge historic home. I'm still recovering from massive spinal injuries in my low back. Had to postpone the majority of my shoots all summer long. Thankfully, my clients were all understanding. And we had to figure out what we were going to do. So 2 months goes by. The agency president said to Kevin, my husband, we're going to keep our eyes peeled for a job for you. Please hang in there and we'll see what we can do. Well, thankfully, 2 months later, in January, a position opened up with the comparable salary supervisory role that he had, very similar to the one he had before. And he took it. He interviewed, he applied, he accepted the position. He was due to start at the end of the month of January of 2015. So this is 8 months after we had been living in Toledo. My husband goes into work day one of his new position. And I'm walking down our staircase and he's already up at the office doing new employee orientation. And we had this beautiful big quarter sawn oak staircase. It was gorgeous. My dog, Graham, and I were walking down the stairs and I lost my footing and I slipped and I was about 4 feet airborne, horizontal in the air, and I slammed back down on the staircase on an angle. I suffered a massive concussion. I injured my cervical spine and I re-injured my lumbar spine. Again, thank God my mom was home and she was up on the 3rd story. I could feel myself losing consciousness. I was on the verge of blacking out. That's when I knew I had a concussion. I became very nauseous. I screamed as loud as I could for my mom because I did not have my phone on me and I knew that I was going to pass out. And I was in so much pain, I could hardly roll myself over. My mom came running down the stairs and called 911. Again, rushed to the hospital. At that point in time, because I could no longer shoot as a photographer full time, mind you, I was shooting weddings 8 to 12 hours back in Michigan. I had weddings still booked that I was pushing myself to do that were exacerbating my pre-existing injuries. But because I could no longer shoot as my main source of income, I had applied for a social work job here in Toledo at a Renewed Mind mental health agency to work with youth in one of the local schools. I had applied for that job the week before falling on the staircase in January. The week after falling on the staircase, I get a call for an interview for this position. Being the determined person that I am and that I was raised to be, okay, I was raised by a single mother. I have been independent my whole life. Not much stops me in my tracks unless I am physically stopped, and in this situation I was. I get a call to come in for this interview, and I told them I had just had a massive accident on a staircase that I was still recovering from. My back was as black as my shirt, looked like I was beat with a baseball bat. The pain, I can't even begin to describe. I could hardly turn my head. I was lightheaded all the time and dizzy. The MRIs confirmed that I had 2 herniated discs in my neck and all of the other discs were bulging. And I re-injured my lumbar. I wasn't going to let it stop me, and I was stressed because let's face it, we are down to one income, my husband and I, in a historic home that we moved into when I was able-bodied, when I had a thriving photography business, okay? So I'm internally panicking. We're all panicking. Our family is now going into survival mode, which I'm sure there are some of you out there that can relate. I look at my mom and I said, can you drive me to this interview for a Renewed Mind? I want this job so bad. It was a full-time case manager, behavioral assistant position. I couldn't even drive myself because of my pain and my injuries. She said, I will drive you, Britni, but please be so careful. She knows how I am. Clearly, she's my mom. She knows that I'm going to push, just like she has pushed throughout her life as a single mother. She drove me to my interview, and I was offered the position on the spot. The one requirement I had and asked of the supervisor is, can you please give me a couple of weeks? I just had a massive accident, and I need time to recover before I start working full time. She said, absolutely. I began working at the North Point Academy location where a Renewed Mind was placed, working with 3rd and 4th grade students, which were my world. My history in social work and human services has been such a true passion of mine since I was 18 years old. So I wasn't going to give up. So I worked at this agency from February into the end of the school year in May. Months into my time there as a full-time employee, my issues and injuries with my neck were getting exponentially worse. I was coming to work extremely lightheaded and in severe pain. I was wearing a neck collar, a neck brace. And one day I went into work and we had a field trip with the kids. And I took a sip of my smoothie that morning. We were on the school bus and I started feeling really nauseous and I didn't know what was wrong. I hadn't eaten anything that morning, just the smoothie I was drinking that I've been drinking every day for months. And I just didn't feel well. And this was a Friday, right before Mother's Day. It was Mother's Day weekend. And I went home that night, kept my stomach light food because I just didn't feel well. Well, the week leading up to this weekend, I had just started physical therapy at Complete Care Holiday Park. I had just began sessions of spinal decompression on my cervical spine. The traction machine that pulls the vertebrae apart clearly is going to start manipulating things because I had severe injuries. They reviewed my MRIs and they saw, yeah, we need to try to fix this so you don't end up in surgery. 3 sessions in to spinal decompression by Friday, something was wrong. At the time, I wasn't attributing it to my neck injuries. I just thought maybe I was coming down with a stomach bug. Maybe I caught something from the kids at the school. Come Sunday, Mother's Day weekend, we're taking my mom out to dinner. And I was hungry, so I had a pre-dinner snack. I was eating some almond bites, okay? And we're driving. And all of a sudden, within 20 minutes of taking a couple of bites of these almond bites, I feel excruciating pain in my stomach. My abdomen was starting to distend. I was swollen. I was nauseous. It was a pain I had never felt before. And I knew it wasn't just like a stomach bug pain. There was something else. It's like me eating those almond bites triggered something. I asked my husband to find the nearest gas station and please pull over. Severe diarrhea and vomiting, and the pain was not letting up. It was getting worse, to the point where I was literally in fetal position in the gas station bathroom. We turned around, and my husband and my mom rushed me to Toledo Promedica Hospital. I was brought in, they did an ultrasound, they immediately thought my gallbladder. I was having a gallbladder attack. That's what they were thinking. They conducted the ultrasound and said, gosh, your gallbladder looks normal. Did you eat a greasy burger? What kind of food? I said, all I had was some organic almond bites, actually the extreme opposite of fatty foods. They said, well, go home and see if it improves in the next couple of hours. If not, come back. I went home, and that was a huge mistake. The pain was getting exponentially worse. It was not letting up. The swelling was getting worse. I was continuing to vomit, and I was laying on our bathroom floor. And after a couple of hours, I was rushed back to the ER, and then I was admitted to Toledo Promedica Hospital. And again, this is May of 2015. I was admitted to the hospital, and I underwent CT scans, endoscopies, HIDA scan to check my ejection rate of my gallbladder, because they were convinced this had to be a gallbladder issue, although my pain was localized to my upper center abdomen. I had to fast for 5 days, wasn't allowed to eat. After all of this testing, ruling out all the things that I didn't have, they allowed me to eat some food to see what would happen. And again, within 20 minutes, soft foods, mashed potatoes, applesauce, awful attack. 20 minutes of having a little bit of food on my stomach, pain, swelling, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. It was horrific. I didn't know what was going on. So I started posting it on Facebook, asking anyone, have you ever had these symptoms? Can anyone help me figure out what is happening to my body right now? This has been unexplainable for the last week in the hospital. My physical therapist contacts me. She saw my post and she said, oh my God, Britni, I believe that you've damaged your vagus nerve. All of us have a vagus nerve. It runs from our brain, through our neck, and connects down into our stomach. The vagus nerve is the nerve that controls your stomach's ability to contract, to digest and push food through. If that vagus nerve is paralyzed or injured, you have what's called gastroparesis. That is when I realized that was going on in my body. And what our physical therapist determined is that the spinal decompression and traction sessions that I started to have that week of Mother's Day week triggered and aggravated that nerve that was injured, that I had no idea was injured this entire time until we started actually treating my neck injuries. And because the injuries were so extensive, you have to wait a couple of months at least after the high impact injury to let things calm down before starting physical therapy. Hence why this began, and physical therapy began in May. I was now diagnosed with a condition called gastroparesis that I had to try to live with every single day. These episodes would last anywhere from 8 to 12 hours straight. I was living on liquids, I couldn't eat solid foods, and the pain was horrific. Mind you, all the while I'm going to physical therapy and they can't even touch my neck. Now I'm living with neck injuries that can't be treated. And I lived with those untreated neck injuries for 2 years because every method of treatment, acupuncture, different forms of chiropractic care, were triggering gastroparesis episodes. So I had to leave my job in May of 2015 as a case manager and behavioral assistant with a renewed mind at North Point Academy, and I was devastated. That's an understatement, actually, because I love those children and those families. I left that job and I took the summer off to try to figure out, how can I manage this? How can I manage this new chronic illness, in addition to the chronic pain that I'm pushing through and living with every day? Invisible chronic pain, invisible chronic illness. Something many people don't understand, because by appearances, I look okay. On the outside, people see me on a good day when I'm pushing through, and they don't know the ramifications of that, when I do more physically than I should. They don't see me on the days when I'm struggling with gastroparesis at home and I'm laying in bed all day in excruciating pain, or on the bathroom floor vomiting in the toilet. They don't see me on those high pain days. They don't understand it. And I know there are people out there that can identify with this. I have become a passionate advocate of those that deal with invisible chronic illness and invisible chronic pain that others can't see. So I take the summer off, and I thought, here we are. We are financially struggling because I can't work. I'm trying to do shoots part-time. I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to make a steady income, right? We're down to one income with my husband's job. So I contact the school that I was working at to see if maybe they had a part-time position or something that wasn't as, labor intensive. I was working social work over 40 hours a week when I was working with a renewed mind. I needed something that was part-time, but I wanted to do something I was passionate about and that I loved, because I just wasn't going to give up, because that's my nature. And I'm going to be quite honest with you, I was dealing with some major depression, because laying on the couch and resting all day, sure, that was helping me physically. I was feeling my best when I wasn't out there pushing myself every single day, but mentally and emotionally, I was beyond depressed. I wasn't fulfilling my purpose in life, my purpose to help people, to make a difference in our world. So I called the school and I asked, do you guys have any part-time positions opening up this school year in the fall? And they said, oh my gosh, we actually do. We have a teacher's aide position, paraprofessional. I could actually be placed back at the school where my students were, where the kids were that were on my caseload. I was thrilled. I said, I will take it. And they said, are you sure it's a significant pay grade down from your social work job, your case manager job? I said, I don't care about that. I need to be doing something I love and producing some kind of income to help our family. So I took the job, started working that fall in August when school started. So I was working from August up until November of 2015 at North Point Academy, and I was thrilled, although it was not easy. Being on someone else's schedule when you deal with chronic pain is really, really tough, because you just can't take the breaks when you need them. There are days that I can push so many days straight, and then I need to rest and take it easy for several days. And you can't do that when you're on someone else's schedule. So it was not easy. I was making the best of it. The kids always brightened my day because they're my passion. Well, in November, I had gotten sick, October into November, with bronchitis, and I was coughing up a lung. I caught something from probably one of the kids at school, and I had to take time off for a couple of weeks. Because of all of that coughing, I could feel it in my back that things were not going to be okay. I went back to the school. I was working in one of the second grade classrooms. I was sitting on the floor for story time with the kids, and I went to stand up, and I felt that pain in my low back, and I went, oh my God, I have to get to Dr. Carr at First Choice Chiropractic. She had been my chiropractor since May of 2014 with my first injury. It was a Toledo EMT that referred her to me. And Dr. Carr knows my whole history with spinal injuries and the chronic illness I deal with stemming from those injuries. So I drive myself to the chiropractor. Dr. Carr adjusts me. I'm laying on the therapy table, and I could feel a cough coming on, and I knew, oh God, I better not cough, because I can feel my back is just on the verge of a reherniation. Sure enough, I cough, and now I can't get off the table. I am in excruciating pain. Mind you, I drove myself to the chiropractor, and now I can't drive myself home. They are all trying to help get me off the table into another therapy room to do ultrasound therapy on my back, and I'm sobbing. The pain was so horrific. They called my husband for me. He came home from work early from Detroit and picks me up. My mom followed him there. They get me home, and now I'm down for weeks. And at this point, I had to leave that job. I knew I was pushing myself too hard, and my body could not do that anymore. And I had to leave. There are no words to describe how devastating the first year of our life in Toledo was. For me personally and for our family. For those of you that can relate and understand what it's like to have to stop doing the things you love or doing them the way you used to, those that have invisible chronic illness and deal with chronic pain understand that you feel like you have lost a part of yourself that you'll never get back when you can't do things the way you used to do them. What is just physical pain turns into mental and emotional pain. Oftentimes it rolls into depression. And I went through waves of depression off and on because my life wasn't what it used to be anymore. And no matter how determined I was, I just couldn't do the things that I love to do the way I always did them. And you grieve. It's like the death of your old self, and you grieve. For those that go through this, I know you understand what I'm describing right now. Mind you, our family is in a panic. We bought this huge old home that now I can't even care for physically. We clean our own house. It was the most overwhelming, and I didn't want to give up. I didn't want to lose the house. We hung in there for 2 more years while I'm trying to do photo shoots part-time and find other ways to make an income so that we're not struggling. And the gastroparesis continued. I suffered with neck injuries that couldn't be treated. My physical therapists and chiropractors knew me so well, and they still do. It reached a point where one day I sat down with my husband and I said, we need help. We came to Toledo with no debt. I had a great credit score, okay? I took pride in every payment that I made on time because I was raised that way. I started working as a babysitter at 11 years old. I was raised by a mother who had to be an adult at a very young age. My father passed just before my 5th birthday. I knew nothing different than to work for everything I've had in my life. So not being able to work like I always have was devastating. And I sat down with my husband as we are literally paying bills with our credit cards while we are trying to keep up with this huge historic old home. And we are struggling and we're on the verge of losing everything. And I said, Kevin, we need help. We need to ask for help. And we need to set our pride aside and we need to reach out to our friends and our family. And let me tell you this, being raised by a single mom and working for everything I've had, I had an actual job with a paycheck since I was 16 years old, usually carrying multiple. I had 2 jobs in high school, paying for my own car, paying for my cell phone. I carried on average 2 to 3 jobs in college and started my own photography business while in college at Wayne State University. Okay, I've been a go-getter and very passionate about a lot throughout my life. But I said to him, we have to set our pride aside and we have to ask for help. In my entire life, I have helped everybody else, non-judgmentally. I have done fundraisers personally for other people that I've met that have crossed my path throughout my life. Never have I had to actually ask for help for myself. The courage that took for me to say we have to start a GoFundMe. We need to let our family, our friends know what's really going on in our life and the struggle that we're facing financially right now because I can't work and I can't work the way I used to. And I remember sitting down on the sofa and it took me hours to write the reason why we're needing to fundraise for ourselves, to try to keep our home, to keep a roof over our heads. Okay? I wrote this post and I cried for hours before publishing this GoFundMe for me and my family. And here I am for years working with children, low-income families that are financially struggling. And the first thing I tell them, never be afraid to ask for help. Never be ashamed to ask for help. Yes, people are going to judge you. Yes, people are going to make assumptions about you. It doesn't matter. You know your story. You know what you're going through. And we teach our children to not be afraid to ask for help. But then as an adult, we struggle because we know there are going to be people out there that judge us, that crucify us, that make assumptions about us, that spread lies about us. Okay? No wonder why so many people take their lives or suffer with severe depression when dealing with chronic illnesses and chronic pain, because you feel isolated, because you feel like nobody understands, and that the minute you talk about what you're going through or say that you need help, so many people judge you. But I told him we have to do this. We don't have a choice. Now I have to be the person asking for help, and I need to practice what I'm preaching with being okay with asking for help. So I posted this GoFundMe, and the support that we received was overwhelming. Of course, there were some naysayers. Of course, there were people passing judgment. That's to be expected. But the people that contacted me privately, that were calling me and saying, I honor your bravery. I honor you choosing vulnerability. Because it takes courage to talk about life's hardships. It takes courage to talk about when your world is turned upside down. When you're struggling financially. It takes so much strength to set your pride aside. And those people that reached out to me, there were people I have known for years that I had no idea. People I've crossed paths with over the years that wrote me saying, oh my God, I understand what you're going through. I deal with chronic illness myself and chronic pain, and I feel so alone. I feel so judged. People don't understand. They see me and they think, you look fine. Like right now, I have so much cervical and thoracic pain right now. It has been a really tough day. I have been overdoing it for more than a while. And I have not taken sufficient breaks. But looking at me right here and now, you would not know that. Okay? It's easy to hide sometimes. But what is so sad to me is that people that do things like this, what's in these letters that we started receiving, took two facts about my life and created an entirely false narrative to fit their angry, hateful, hurtful agenda, and have been spreading it around as truth for the last 2.5 years about myself and our organization. And we're done. So the reason I tell you my story, and before I go any further, because I will be reading these letters, I want everyone to know one of the driving forces behind me co-founding the Compassionate Village was not only my love for animals, but my love for people, my love for human service, my love for advocating and being a voice for people that don't have one. Okay? And in the animal rescue field, it seems like there's a higher concentration of people that are so judgmental and full of hate towards people without taking the time to learn someone's story. These letters are a perfect example of that. Some of the things referenced in these letters, for instance, after we were raising some funds to help keep a roof over our head, my husband and I, to help pay for bills and utilities and our house payment to get us through, I came to a point where, because I had to charge for utilities, gas, groceries, and pay bills on the few credit cards I had that I had a great credit score with, never missed a payment. And like I said, I took such pride in that because I worked so hard to get where I've been in my life, just like my mom has. There came a point where I had to let those few cards go. It was around $6,000 worth of debt that was accrued. And that was such a difficult time because I felt so defined by that. While all the while for years I tell families, you're not defined by your hardship. Your character isn't defined by your financial status. Things happen in life. Tragedy happens in life. It's how we respond to it. But I had to literally work myself through that and remember that I'm not defined by this. The injuries that I have sustained, the illnesses that I live with and push through every single day, that doesn't define me. And what's resulted from that doesn't define me. And I had to let go of 3 credit cards that I had worked so hard to be able to pay on time. And I had to let them go. And of course, what comes with that? Debt collectors calling you for payments. Mind you, our health insurance is from Michigan. It's Michigan-based because that's where my husband works. And my chiropractic care was not fully covered by our health insurance. We had thousands of dollars that we had to pay out of pocket for me to get chiropractic care, physical therapy, acupuncture, anything to try to help me function every day, to feel semi-normal, which I don't know what that feels like anymore. I have a new normal. So when we had to let those credit cards go and we had to face the reality come 2017, 3 years we had been living in our historic home, that we had to let that house go. We had to sell it. We had to sell it. It's the last thing I wanted to do. I saw us growing old in this home and making Toledo our forever place, okay? It was not an easy time in our life. Once again, having to set our pride aside. We could no longer maintain this historic house. We had to downsize. We had to make life easier for ourselves. And for me, physically easier. We put our home on the market and we sold it in the spring of 2017. And we downsized to a significantly smaller home that I could physically maintain and that we could better afford. So we move into this new house. I had already started developing an idea. Living in the Old West End, I connected with other people that love animals. And I saw the need for an animal rescue in our community that is centered upon helping people. And I saw that need when we moved to the Old West End. Not being from Toledo, I was not familiar. I had no ties here. Neither of us did. None of us did. We didn't know anybody when we came here. And taking this leap and buying this house in Toledo, the first week that I was in the city of Toledo in the Old West End, before we moved to our house, just a little side note, there was a dog running down the street that I rescued. And I started connecting with all these other animal lovers in our community. And they were already warning me, which this was so sad, to stay away from certain rescues or a certain rescue that is notorious for being so hateful towards people, that targets people and targets other organizations and bullies people. And I remember thinking, I saw that drama in Detroit in the rescue field, but man, I'm hearing that it's pretty concentrated here in the city. So for a couple of years, and a year before we moved from the old West End and downsized to a smaller home, I started developing an organization that really focused on compassion, not just towards animals, but towards people, towards families that may be struggling financially, that need help to care for their pets, and doing it with dignity and doing it with respect towards people and taking the time to learn people's stories. So an animal rescue has a human service element at its heart and its core. Again, two of my passions. So I start co-founding and developing the Compassionate Village and our outreach program, our temporary safe haven program. Programs that revolve around serving people and their animals. We launched this organization in April of 2018. This is actually our 4-year anniversary this month. And I took such pride in doing things differently. And we launched this organization, and within, it was September of 2019 that we started receiving these anonymous letters filled with such hatred. Anonymous letters that painted a picture of myself and our organization as something that we're not. And like I said, when these letters started to come in, and the first one was received by a former TCV representative, my first thought was, we have to address this. We have to address this publicly. This is going to spread like wildfire, and none of it is true besides 2 things. So today I am going to read these letters aloud to everyone. There are 3 letters that I have access to. 2 were mailed to me personally at our home address. The other letter was mailed to a former representative that will go unnamed. And anyone that has been referenced in these letters that is not me, I will not be naming, nor will I be reading those portions of the letter. I will only be reading portions of the letter that are pertaining to me and directed towards me. So I have felt it's important that we reveal these letters, and I have a moment to fact check and tell the true story. So I'm going to start with the first letter. This letter was sent in September of 2019. And this is what it says. And I'm going to read them all consecutively, and then we will go back and I will correct the misinformation, the lies, the false narrative that's been created in these letters. So the first letter states, and I'm going to say former TCV representative, hope this makes it to you. Very concerned for you and what you have gotten yourself involved with Britni Wilson Carlton in the Compassionate Village. Are you aware of Britni's personal financial background? Did you do your homework and investigate prior to becoming involved with her and prior to joining the board on the Compassionate Village? Her own personal financial history involves civil suits and large amounts of unpaid debt. If she is unable to handle her own personal debt, then there is a strong chance she is unable to properly handle any debt accumulated from the Compassionate Village. As a board member, she could skip out and leave you responsible with any and all debt. If you investigate her personal financial background, you will see she and her husband had to sell their home in the Old West End due to the high debt. They bought their new home, but it is in her husband's name due to her bad credit card score and to avoid creditors and debt collectors from taking the home from them. Previously, in parentheses, they moved here from Detroit. Who knows what she left behind and what she ran from there. She has racked up over $6,000 in debt, claiming it was from a period of unemployment due to injuries. She even tried a GoFundMe account to pay for her debt. Britni keeps starting up self-employment adventures such as her photography business Inspire Somebody with no follow-through. How about she gets a real job to pay off her high debt? A major concern is how in a letter to the Toledo Municipal Court from June of 2018, just last year, Britni advised the court she would be unable to attend a court hearing on June 18, 2018 due to her injuries. Upon looking at her Facebook page, On June 18, 2018, Britni's birthday was that day. She has a post of a picture she took while out driving of a rainbow. If she was out driving around town, Britni could have driven herself to her court hearing. On June 17, 2018, there is a post about her being up all night caring for kittens. Then on June 16, 2018, there is a post with pictures of Britni physically helping wash cars at a charity car wash that you yourself attended and are in pictures of. All of that unencumbered activity, yet she is too disabled from her injuries to attend her court hearing on June 18, 2018. Everyone knows Britni is actively and physically all over God's green earth, chasing down strays and pets in need of assistance from TCV, driving to MedVet Columbus with TCV animals, sleeping in her car with TCV dogs. All her pictures and posted activities do not paint the picture of a disabled person, especially one that is disabled so badly with injuries that she is unable to attend her own court hearing. The picture Britni has painted of herself is not the real person. Behind the scenes, she is very deceitful and irresponsible. She has absolutely no business running a 501c3 nonprofit organization. She can't even handle her own personal finances. It is no secret that TCV has accumulated severe debt already with several area veterinarian hospitals and offices and has been banned from further service at a few, such as West Toledo Animal Hospital. The constant TCV posts begging for donations is ridiculous. She is already racking up debt that will not be able to be paid off, and if it gets too much worse, let's hope she doesn't bail and leave you stuck with the financial responsibility of it, since you are on the board. You may want to find yourself a good lawyer to safeguard yourself. I hope you will be able to see the truth and urgency in this matter. It certainly isn't right for you to be affected by her financial irresponsibility. Take care of yourself. So that's letter number 1, September of 2019, that a former TCV representative received. Letter number 2, I was the recipient of. Also mailed at the end of September of 2019. Here goes. Britni Wilson Carlton, such a pathetic, fake person you are. If your fans that follow the Compassionate Village only knew who you really are behind the scenes. You put up such a good front, making everyone believe you have your shit together, excuse my French, but I'm reading it as it's stated, and are doing such wonderful work for the animals. Word is getting out, and a lot of the rescue community is learning. You cannot handle your personal finances to save the world. How are you supposed to run a rescue? You and your husband ran from your debt in Michigan to come down to the Old West End. You continued to rack up more credit card debt when you supposedly had injuries and could not work. Injuries and pain from what, Britni? Something made up? Rack those credit cards up and start a GoFundMe so others had to pay for your lack of personal responsibility. Then you and your husband sold the Old West End house and bought a house in your husband's name because of your bad credit and the fact that creditors were coming after you. It's all online. You had 3 lawsuits of creditors coming after you. All your credit card charges are detailed in those dockets. The best is your letter to the Toledo Municipal Court dated June 12, 2018. You told the court you were unable to attend a hearing on Monday, June 18th due to your injuries. What a complete lying fraud. According to your Facebook post on June 18th, 2018, you were driving around chasing rainbows and taking pics on your birthday. You could have driven your way down to the court. You posted on June 17, 2018 that you were up all night taking care of kittens, and even better, on June 16, 2018, you attended a car wash fundraiser. And there are actual pictures of you physically washing cars. What injuries do you have that kept you from attending court, but you could still chase rainbows, stay up all night taking care of kittens, and physically washing cars? Fake injuries, that's what. And now recently, you keep posting on Facebook about attending court hearings for dog cruelty cases. So you are able to attend court hearings for that, but you are too injured to attend court hearings for a lawsuit against you. You are a liar and a fake. All you want is the attention and praise for running all over God's green earth saving animals. You post about sleeping in your car with animals you have saved. That makes no sense if you have injuries that prevent you from attending your personal court hearings. How can you possibly sleep in your car? Why are you even renting hotel rooms to stay with rescues? Thought you had debilitating injuries. You need to cut the divine crap. Between all your divine posts and penny posts, it is so sickening, tooth cavity, disgustingly, annoyingly fake sweet. Take some of those pennies you keep posting about finding and pay off your personal debt, and better yet, pay off some of the Compassionate Village debt at West Toledo Animal Hospital as well as other vet offices. Word is that you have been banned from taking animals to West Toledo Animal Hospital because you have racked up quite a debt there. The rescue world is learning. They are getting tired of your constant posts begging for donations. There is no doubt Scrappy's adoption to MedVet Columbus employees was a ploy to soften your debt there. There was an individual locally here who wanted to adopt Scrappy and was willing to pay for all of Scrappy's surgeries and rehabilitation. This individual even had experience with special needs animals. You stopped responding and basically shunned this individual in order so that you could have a sensationalized, divine story of the MedVet employees in Columbus adopting him. More pats on the back for you while you continued to beg for more donations. Scrappy's surgery would have been paid for rather than you having to beg for donations. But by adopting him to MedVet Columbus employees, it put you in good graces to be able to continue to utilize their facility despite being in debt. It's all transparently clear. Now there's a paragraph pertaining to a former TCV representative that I have blocked out and I will not be reading. I will continue after that. It states, "You both are ridiculous. Both as fake as can be. Only in it for the attention. All the posts with the overuse of adjectives with divine intervention, just so everyone thinks how wonderful you both are. Word is spreading and more will know what is truly going on. Less are donating. Good luck. Continuing. You are being exposed. Quite the fakeness. Admit how you have messed up. There is no way you can manage this rescue with your own personal finance track record. Now you want to misuse other people's hard-earned money in the name of rescue. Pockets run only so deep. You should be ashamed of yourselves." Okay, so that's the second letter, the one I had received, end of September 2019. There was a letter prior to the one I'm about to read to you that was received by a former TCV volunteer in Foster in October of 2019, yet that letter was not provided to us, only a copy of the envelope that it had been mailed in. So I truly don't know what that letter says. Probably something very similar, I can imagine. So here we are, on to the third. Nice long. These are pages of anonymous letters. So this is the last letter I received, which was it was mailed February 27th, 2020, right before the pandemic started. It says, "Britni Wilson Carlton, you are the biggest fake and attention-seeking individual there is. You evidently did not get enough attention as a child or throughout your life. Everything you do, every rescue you make, every charity you set up is for your own selfish needs, validation, attention, and for your need to control. One day you are posting about your majorly serious cervical neck and back injuries and getting massages, MRIs, needing personal days left alone to rest, blah, blah, blah. The next day you are slamming your car in park on a busy expressway blocking traffic. Which one of these times are you going to get someone or yourself killed being so careless like that in traffic to save an animal and leaping out to chase down strays along the expressway? So which is it, Britni? Several question marks. You can barely function, yet able to go chasing after strays all of the time? And don't get me started about your ridiculous live videos on Facebook of you panicking and screaming into your phone asking for help. How do you expect to catch dogs acting like such a freaking idiot? Then you follow it up with your novel-length posts, overly strewn with eye-rolling, vomit-inducing, sweet adjectives about the rescue you conducted. Like no one else or no other rescue in the city has ever caught a stray dog before. Get over yourself. Already aware you skipped your court cases years ago citing fake health issues. All the while you were busy carrying on normal activities in your life as if nothing was wrong. That whole dog rescue of strays along the expressway was such a publicity stunt for you. You hoard out that story to any news channel you could in order to pat yourself on the back and get attention. Those dogs should have been dropped off at Lucas County Canine Care and Control, where their owner ended up calling to find them anyways. That's what the public is told to do, and unfortunately, for attention's sake, you decide to do it differently. That is such an irresponsible and confusing message you are sending to the public that even your rescue would not take found dogs to LC4, but would rather raise donations for boarding. So many wannabe rescuers who find stray dogs may follow your actions and refuse to take to LC4, hindering reunification. Your middleman services of boarding those dogs was an absolute waste of money and definitely unnecessary. Instead of the owner paying his fines and fees for not responsibly containing his dogs or not responsibly finding someone reputable to watch his dogs while he was away, you basically had your brainwashed followers waste their own hard-earned money on unnecessary boarding. A stay at LC4 is free, so you could get attention, praise, and look wonderful for taking care of those dogs. So in a sense, your kind, brainwashed followers paid the owner's fines and fees for him and then some. Those hard-earned donations could have been used for more important rescues or veterinarian care for the other pets you could be helping, but instead you turned it into a praise Britni and TCV moment. Look what we can do. Look what we can give. Aren't we the best? More than likely the owner could care less and those dogs will be loose again or on a rehoming pit page soon. But isn't TCV and Britni wonderful? So many in the area rescue field were shaking their heads and feeling embarrassed for you, Britni. Your actions, decisions, posts, and media stories have made you look like a complete fool. So many around you are slowly making their departure, and those once associated with you are thankful to be away from your constant need to control, your constant bragging about the work you are doing, and long posts for the thanks and public recognition, your constant need to make your rescue about one person, yourself. Instead of it being a group effort, and your constant control to not allow anyone else to have an opinion and controlling what everyone says and does in your rescue. People are bailing on you fast, Britni. Prepare yourself for more. Everyone is seeing the fake, controlling, and attention-seeking person you are. You are definitely not the sugary sweet, giving, helping, penny picking up, divine happening, motivational person you pretend to be. So why don't you do yourself a favor and quit while you're ahead? Stop all this nonsense. Do things the right way. Don't be in it for yourself and the attention you can gain. Be humble and quiet. Stop your ridiculous divine posts. Stop your fake motivation posts. Stop your lengthy, adjective-strewn posts about what rescue you have made or what animal or people you have helped. Go get yourself some help, both mentally and physically. You need it. With about 5 exclamation marks at the end of that. So those are the anonymous letters that we started receiving in September of 2019 into the end of February 2020. Now it's time to do some fact checking because you are looking at the source right here. So we're going to respond to these letters. And because I don't have a signature, none of these were signed, although we do have a good idea who the people are behind them. I've never been given a chance to actually speak with this person because clearly they were not brave to sign their name. But it is important to me that I correct the accusations and the lies and the false narratives that have been created about me and our organization. And I will tell you that there are out of all of this, 5 pages of hateful anonymous letters. There are only 2 facts in these letters. 2, just 2 out of all of that. Those 2 facts are that yes, I had to let go of 3 credit cards totaling around $6,000. Okay? Because I could no longer work. And I had to let those cards go and let them go to collections. Fact number 1. Fact number 2, yes, we have an extremely high balance at West Toledo Animal Hospital. That is not a lie. We have saved the lives of hundreds of animals since 2018, for the last 4 years. And we'll get into that in a minute. So, 2 facts, and then an incredibly false story was created and derived from those 2 facts by this person or people. So let's start with a couple of these points that need to be addressed. Where they state previously they moved from Detroit, my husband and I. Who knows what she left behind and ran from there? Well, just to let you know, we did not have any debt. There were no debt collectors coming after us in Detroit. My husband's been employed in the state of Michigan for over 20 years, just at the same agency he's been at. And I had a thriving photography business that I transferred down here to Toledo. Okay? So, clarification number 1, hence why we were able to buy a house in the Old West End. So we weren't running from anyone or anything or any debt collectors. Let's see. Again, she racked up over $6,000 in debt, claiming it from it being a period of unemployment due to injuries. And the GoFundMe. Like I stated before, It took all of my strength to set my pride aside and ask for help. And I find it despicable that there are people out here that make these kind of assumptions about someone. Because I will tell you right now, the hate and the bullying in these letters could drive someone to take their life. And I am so grateful that I have a strong constitution about who I am. That I know my truth, I know the truth, and I know what I have overcome throughout my life. And I will say this, I have made it my life's mission and my work to use what I have been through to help other people. To share my story, which so many people are afraid to do, and I see why. You share your story, you share your hardship, and this is what can happen to you. This is what can happen to you. It's disgusting. Anyway, next point. Britni keeps starting up self-employment adventures such as her photography business inspire somebody with no follow-through. So clearly this person didn't do their research enough to visit www.inspire-somebody.com to see that I am a professional photographer. I started my professional photography business full-time as a small business owner in Michigan in 2011. Up until moving to Toledo, and I continued to try to shoot. I shot multiple weddings after my injuries because I had already booked with those clients, and I was not going to let them down. And I paid for it tremendously. Gastroparesis, severe pain, down for weeks, but people don't see that side. So yes, I had a business called Inspire Somebody, which I am still passionate about, of using my creative talents and my gifts through photography. Okay, next point. Let's see. Attending the court hearings. Let's talk about that. So if you have debt collectors coming after you, I quickly learned that when you make a payment arrangement with that collection company and you speak with them on the phone, you are not required to attend the court hearings. Okay? I spoke to those agents and they said, you don't need to worry, you don't need to be present. There's not going to be a bench warrant out for your arrest. This is a debt collection hearing. As long as we have an agreement made, you don't need to attend. It's a waste of your time. I was going through gastroparesis. I still go through gastroparesis. And I still deal with chronic pain every day. Different levels every day, fluctuating, depending on what I'm doing and overdoing day by day. All right, next, let's see. June 16, 2018. Oh, okay, so this is a really important point that needs to be made. Oh, and the part about the rainbows, me taking a photograph of a rainbow on my birthday, June 18, 2018. My granddad, who is one of my best friends, and I should say was, of course he always will be, passed in 2020. I was his primary caregiver for 2 months with my aunt when he was diagnosed with cancer. And I spent 2 months down in Tennessee. But prior to that, 2 years prior to that, my granddad and I, of course, call each other on our birthdays. And I was born on my granddad's 50th birthday. So this post that they're referencing about me taking photographs of a rainbow on my birthday, leaving an appointment, my granddad called me while I was on the road. We had our annual birthday conversation, shared birthday, and I hung up the phone, turned down the corner, and I see this brilliant rainbow in the sky. And I started sobbing because my granddad, this is my father's dad, my dad who passed away, and I are very close. So that rainbow for me was a divine sign. And yes, I believe in divine signs. Yes, I believe in divine intervention. I believe that our loved ones that pass on stay with us in spirit. So seeing that beautiful rainbow was a sign to me from my dad and letting us know that he's with us, me and my granddad, because we mourn the loss of my dad. This was his only son. Every day. So the rainbows they're referencing when they were stalking my Facebook page and going years back into my page to make these points in their letter, that's what they're talking about. Next, this is another really important correction that needs to be made. On June 16, 2018, there is a post with pictures of Britni physically helping wash cars at a charity car wash that you yourself attended and are in the pictures. They're referring to a former TCB board member. This car wash was a benefit for a friend of mine named Carrie here in Toledo. Her young daughter tragically passed away. She lost a child. They were hosting this fundraiser to wash cars to raise money for the funeral expenses of her daughter. I was having an extremely bad back day, and my husband thought I was crazy for even trying to go. But again, because I'm determined and I don't want my injuries and illness and my pain to stop me from living my life, and let me tell you, that is a frustrating battle for people that understand this. I will risk being laid up for days just so I can go do something I'm determined to do. And this was one of those things. But I had said when I arrived to this event, I spoke to those that were running it and coordinating it. I said, listen, I'm not having a good day with my back. I could probably safely hose cars down, but I cannot be like bent over, scrubbing wheels, bending over, scrubbing a car, but I can at least have the job and the role of at least hosing the cars down. I wanted to be a part of this. This meant so much to me because of the loss of Carrie's daughter, and my heart went out to her. So I stayed and I volunteered my time and my physical energy, which I had no business doing, and I helped hose down cars. That night, what people don't see, what this person writing these letters didn't see, is that the minute I went home, I crawled into bed with a heating pad and an ice pack, and I was in excruciating pain, and I paid for that for days. But I didn't post about it. I didn't talk about it. That's the side of invisible chronic illness that people don't see. So there's that point. Next. And then the statement saying all her pictures and posted activities do not paint the picture of a person, of a disabled person. Let's talk about that. That ignorant statement right there, saying that because I don't look disabled, because I may not be in a wheelchair or have crutches or using a walker, to make that kind of assumption about somebody and people that are struggling with pain and illness that other people can't see. Why do you think so many people feel so isolated and so judged and so misunderstood? Because of people that have an ignorant attitude like this. It infuriates me, to be honest. But it's also fueled my passion to be a voice for people that have gone through what I have gone through and what I continue to go through every single day. Next, they say that back in 2019, they're stating that we've been banned from further service at a few vets such as West Toledo Animal Hospital. That is not correct. We were not banned from West Toledo Animal Hospital, nor were we banned from any vets. Second, the constant TCV post begging for donations is ridiculous. I find that really interesting, being that we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that depends on donation solicitation. We are a volunteer run. None of us pull a salary. None of us are working for TCV. We are volunteering our time, and we depend on donations and volunteers to operate our organization, for our services to be applied to the people and their pets and the animals in our community. We have to beg for donations. We have to solicit donations to save the lives of the animals that we have saved, to keep people and their pets together. That comes with the territory of having a 501c3 nonprofit. All right, so let's go to the next letter and let's correct these other statements that were made. Okay, let's talk about Scrappy. For those of you that have not been following TCV since our inception, there was a puppy named Scrappy that was 6 months old and hit by a car, little terrier puppy. He suffered a broken pelvis and a fracture in his spine and needed 2 back-to-back major neurosurgeries with the top neurosurgeon at MedVet Columbus. Over $12,000 in surgery and rehabilitation was required to save Scrappy's life. We took a leap of faith on him, and yes, we traveled down to MedVet Columbus, leaving at 4 a.m. to get him there for that major surgery. Back-to-back surgeries, 2 days in a row. While we were in MedVet Columbus, and here, this is exactly what they said, so you guys follow me with what I'm saying here, what I'm responding to. This person stated, there is no doubt Scrappy's adoption to MedVet Columbus employees was a ploy to soften your debt there. There was an individual locally here who wanted to adopt Scrappy and was willing to pay for all of Scrappy's surgeries and rehabilitation. This individual even had experience with special needs animals. You stopped responding and basically shunned this individual in order so that you could have a sensationalized divine story of the MedVet employees in Columbus adopting him. So let's talk about that. When I drove Scrappy down to MedVet Columbus, I was sitting in the waiting room while they were doing the initial consult and assessment with the neurosurgeon. And an employee comes out and introduces herself to me and says, so I know that we're like 3.5 hours away from Toledo, but I haven't fallen in love with this little pup named Scrappy. And she has terrier dogs, so she loves the breed. And she said, I don't know what your requirements are to become a foster, and I know that we're long distance, but I want to propose something to you. She said, would you ever consider letting me foster Scrappy here in Columbus and take him to work with me every day, where he can get specialty rehab and care in the facility that conducted his major neurosurgery? Would that be possible? And of course, initially I was like, oh God, I don't know if I like the feeling of having him so far away, but I thought Toledo has nothing like this. There is not a neurosurgeon that can personally watch and oversee his progress during rehabilitation, months of rehabilitation, mind you. And I knew that this was an opportunity that we could not pass up for Scrappy. So we literally I traveled back to Columbus, scheduled a home visit with the foster, did all of the Compassionate Village foster paperwork, and we authorized her to be Scrappy's foster. We authorized her to take him to work with her every day, and it was the most beautiful opportunity for that little boy. And he made a remarkable recovery. And while he was in rehab, he happened to cross paths with a wonderful couple, both registered veterinary technicians, working with him on his rehab. They have 2 dogs already and some kitties, and they're friends with the person that was fostering him at the time. She reached out to me and said, Britni, I have found 2 adopters for Scrappy. They are madly in love with him. They are working with him every day, and they want to adopt him. Would you consider letting Columbus be his forever home? And without hesitation, I said, he has to be here. He has to be. This couple is willing to commit their life to his special medical needs and to be able to take him to work with them every day. And they are beyond qualified to take care of him. This little boy was full of metal and needed rehab every day for the longest time, and they were willing to make that commitment to him. We were jumping on that. This was a huge blessing. As much as it just bummed us out to be far away from him, we were given an open invitation always to be able to visit. We conducted their adoption home visit. We finalized the adoption in their home in Columbus, and Scrappy has been living his best life. But I will tell you right now, by no means fostering him out to an employee of MedVet in Columbus and adopting him out to 2 employees at MedVet Columbus did that soften our debt with MedVet, our veterinary balance. That played absolutely no impact or any role in softening our debt. We were given a normal rescue discount, just as we are with any animal hospital that we contract with as a nonprofit. But it surely did us no favors financially. I will tell you that right now. So, corrected. None of that is true. Next, let's see here. This is the last letter. I just want to say this really awful, hurtful statement about you evidently did not get enough attention as a child or throughout your life. Let me just tell you, and my mom will be watching this video, I received immense amounts of loving, incredible, compassionate attention by a single mother who busted her butt to give me a phenomenal life. The attention I was given was to be raised as a compassionate person, to defend others, to speak up when something's not okay, to learn the story of another person who is experiencing hardship. And as I stated before, I have made it my life's mission to use what I have gone through, whether it's the death of a parent as a child, all the kids on my caseload for years that experienced the loss of a parent. I could sincerely relate to them. Do you know how impactful that is when you can truly identify? You can better serve your fellow man when you can truly relate and people know the difference. My mom raised me that way, to be vulnerable, because it takes strength, because it takes courage, something the people writing these letters do not have. So the attention I received as a child paved the way for my life. To be honest, to come from a place of non-judgmental compassion for other people, and to be brave enough to share my story, my hardships, to show others that it's okay. You are not defined by your struggles. You're defined by how you respond to them, what you do with them, how you serve the world and make it a better place by what you've been through. Next, the statement that, let me see. Okay, here's the last. I think this is going to be one of the last statements I'm going to correct here. The dogs along the expressway let's talk about that. They say that whole dog rescue of strays along the expressway was such a publicity stunt for you. You whored out that story to any news channel you could in order to pat yourself on the back and get attention. That those dogs should have been dropped off at Lucas County Canine Care and Control, where their owner ended up calling them to find them anyways. Let's talk about that. Number one, we never contacted one news agency in Toledo about that story. Several reporters with 13ABC, WTOL, NBC, they follow our page. We were contacted by them. So we never reached out to the media. The media reached out to us and asked if they could do an interview because they were inspired by this rescue. Number two, when myself and a Toledo police officer and some other volunteers in the community rescued these 2 dogs off the side of the expressway, I was going to take them to Lucas County Canine Care and Control that night. I sat in their parking lot, and it was a mother dog and her young son. The male dog was petrified and strongly bonded to his mom. You could see it. They wouldn't leave each other's side. I got both of the dogs out of my truck, walked them up to the doors of LC4, and they dropped to the ground. Now, I wasn't even actually at the door. I was probably 20 feet from the door. They wouldn't walk any further. They were so scared. Me being the human being that I am, that actually cares about the animals, the thought of me leaving them in such a state of fear, knowing they were going to be separated, this wasn't personal to Lucas County Canine Care and Control, who we love, by the way, who we work closely with. It is still a shelter, and they will say that themselves. It's still a scary, stressful environment for dogs. And when I saw these 2 dogs completely freeze with fear, I could not put them through that for the time that they would be on their stray hold. Plus, I knew they would be separated. That would make it even more scary for them, especially the young male dog being separated from his mom. So instead, I took them to Toledo Pet Farm. I reached out to the community and asked if they could make payments towards their boarding so these 2 dogs could stay together while we searched for their owners during their 14-day stray hold. And yes, sure enough, an owner came forward. And let me tell you what I'm also so grateful for, is that when that owner came forward and reached out to Lucas County Canine Care and Control, who put us in touch with them, I am so grateful that we were the ones holding these dogs, because we were actually able, upon meeting with the owner, to enroll that family in our outreach program to assist with food, treats, supplies that they needed for their dogs. If we would have taken them to Lucas County Canine Care and Control and they were just returned, they're not able to follow up, nor are they always able to provide those services. So we were able to provide a more individualized experience upon returning those dogs to their owner, like we do. We go above and beyond in that way. We don't just say, here's your dog back. No, hey, here's your dogs, but do you guys need any help? Do you need food? Do you need treats? Do you need supplies? Do you need gear? And that's what we offered. And we enrolled them in our outreach program, and it was a wonderful ending to a really heartbreaking situation. So that's the fact on that situation. So at the end of the day, let me say this. Is like I said, today I have chosen to let myself be vulnerable. I have chosen to be brave, to talk about my story and what I have overcome in my life. And that's just part of my story. But I will say this, that I am extremely disappointed in the behavior of people in our community and in this rescue field. These letters are a perfect example as to why so many good people leave the animal rescue field, while so many good people stay away from it. I don't blame you. People were warning me, oh God, good luck if you're starting a rescue, good luck. It's brutal. Why is this? Why are there people filled with so much hatred and disdain for humans? Yes, we see the awful side of humanity, but there's also a beautiful side of humanity, and that's what we have to appreciate. But this kind of behavior is appalling. It's appalling. It's bullying. It's sick. It's absolutely sick. And I will tell you this. Congratulations to the people writing these letters, and the people that I've been made aware of are continuing to defame myself personally and our organization, because we have sustained, due to these letters, as they stated, you're losing donors and you're going to continue to. You are correct. I will tell you right now, for 2.5 years since these letters started, we have lost a significant number of donors. Our funding has gone down dramatically, which has impacted our ability to make high payments and significant payments on our vet bills. Cases that we've taken on over the years that veterinarians have called us and referred us to, asking if we would help with cases to save the lives of animals that need thousands of dollars in vet care, life-saving vet care. Cases referred to us from the public, hundreds of animals that we have saved. And the people defaming myself and our organization, I mean, literally to this day, I'm still being made aware of defamation. It has impacted us greatly. But I can tell you one thing that it hasn't done is it hasn't broken our spirit. It hasn't and it will not stop me from being who I am, from sharing my story and speaking the truth. It will not stop the Compassionate Village for being the organization that we are in our community, because clearly, more than ever, we need people that truly understand hardship and want to see change in the lives of other people. People that are sincerely compassionate, that want to learn the story of someone else. I can't tell you how many families we work with in outreach that are out of work and out of jobs because of illness and because of injury. And I can sit down with them and say, I get that. I understand, and you are not defined by that. I can relate. Myself and other board members, all of our board members, actually, as a matter of fact, all deal with chronic illness, invisible chronic illness, and invisible pain that they push through regularly. Why do you think we're so passionate about helping people? Because we get it. We get the struggle. And we want to help alleviate it in our community. And that's one thing that the people behind these letters, the people that are continuing to spread lies and false information about me and our organization, so one thing you will never be able to stop is us being who we are and me being who I am. So I know that we're not the only organization in Toledo that has been the target of this kind of behavior. I'm grateful that we have an amazing relationship with multiple rescues in our city. But sadly, there are some people in this field that have made it their life's work to take others down, to build themselves up for no reason whatsoever. And it's really sad, because what a miserable existence that has to be. That you spend your life doing things like this. How awful. And how just disgusting and distasteful this is. You don't know the struggle that people have. The days that I would lay in bed in so much pain, depressed because I can't even go and pull weeds in my garden. Another thing that I love to do. That might not sound like a big deal to you, but normal everyday activities where I struggle, the days that I push myself, I have 3 chiropractors, by the way. All of them telling me, oh my God, you got to stop doing this. You have to stop doing that. Stop lifting, stop carrying dogs, stop loading supplies. Sure, I would feel fantastic if I just rested all day, every day. Physically just rested. My body would feel great. My heart, my mind, my soul, not so much. Not so much. Fulfilling my passion and my purpose in this world, I will always find a way. And of course, there will always be people that make assumptions about you. But if anything, let what I'm saying to you today know, for those of you that have gone through the same, that have been afraid to ask for help because of behavior like this, please don't let people like this, small people like this, stop you from getting the help you need, the support you need. And know that we are there for you. But don't ever let people like this stop you from being who you are, for shining your light and staying optimistic amongst hardship. You know, if I had a crappy attitude during some of our worst times in our life, that surely wouldn't make my situation any better. So by appearances, yeah, people are probably thinking, oh man, she's so happy and she's so positive. Nothing could be wrong. Quite the contrary. I just know I could either make myself as miserable or try to get through this with a positive attitude to better my life, to get me through the difficult times. So don't ever let other people stop you from being who you are, because the minute you do that, you've given away all your power. And today, we are taking our power back. Today, it is important that you know the dark side of this field and the people, not everyone, but some of the people in this field and what they're doing in our community. And it is time for change. That is why I started this organization, is because I knew there needed to be a shift in the mindset of the human beings. Animal rescue is comprised of human beings. Behind every pet is an owner, a person with a story. And sure, not all people are good. Okay, we see the awful side of humanity, but there are a lot of people that are misunderstood and underrepresented. And it's our time to be their voice. But it's also our time to set a standard here on how we treat each other. This field is difficult enough as it is. It is emotionally, mentally, physically depleting and exhausting, and compassion fatigue is so real. So we need to be kind to each other. You can disagree with people. That's okay. And people that know me know. And I can tell you some of the people I've interacted with that I believe are behind these letters know that there is always an open invitation at my table to discuss these things. You could have come to me, it's easy to get a hold of me, and said, hey, I want to talk to you. I have questions. I have questions about your life, and I want to speak with you. I would have gladly sat down with a cup of coffee and spoke to you and told you the truth as I have today. Yet unfortunately, you were too much of a coward to sign your name. And this is the way we had to go with it. But like I said, I am grateful that we have a team that is supporting our efforts as we continue forward to be a voice for both people and animals. And I will never, ever stop fulfilling my personal mission in this world, no matter what people like this try to do and say. At the end of the day, we have to stay true to who we are, shine our light, and use the things that we have overcome or continue to overcome to help other people. Thank you guys for your continued support. Thank you for listening. I know this was a long video. I love you all so much. Talk to you soon.